Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with me today here, as always. Cher will be along shortly, and I believe Donald Bess will be here again tonight as well. And also, perhaps one more guest, a gentleman who was wrongly accused of a crime, and he served his time for it. And we'll see if he actually is able to drop by. I'm going to put up the link again here in chat. Did it work? There we go. If you guys want to jump in as well. Sorry, I've had a few days off, lots of family stuff going on. There is Donald. Hello, Donald.
Hello.
Hey, Donald, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here again tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to be back on. There's very exciting things happening tonight. Charles Wilcox, he'll be here, won't he?
I'm hoping Charles will be here. I'm hoping so. And then I know that Cher is going to be here in just a minute. She was running about 10 minutes behind, which is fine. I always have to start the broadcast pretty much right on time, even though I am late with everything. But how have you been since I talked to you about a week or so ago?
Oh, been so busy, busy.
I know what you mean.
It's very interesting. I'm working right now a couple of cases that have expert witnesses in them.
Oh, wow.
One for our side and a couple for the other side.
Sure.
Different cases. And, it's very exciting. And I won't speak about, of course, those cases tonight.
Right.
Because they're before the court. But what a reminder as to how important expert witnesses are to the court and how expert witnesses can be a disaster. So many people have been convicted upon expert witness testimony when they were innocent.
Wow. I bet.
And I'm going to speak tonight about some cases I have personal knowledge of where people were convicted and charged with murder on the basis of experts. One of whom
because of expert witnesses.
Whom testified against me.
Oh, no.
Oh,
really?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I know that people are wrongfully convicted all the time. I know that, and there was an expert witness in the Casey Anthony case that just made me so mad. What was it? Is it Werner Spitz? Is that a doctor, some expert witness who completely said everything wrong. He was reaching, and I never really liked his testimony in any case I've seen him involved with. But Dr. G, of course, was the voice of reason in that case. But I know expert witnesses can, blow the entire thing the wrong way. For sure, undoubtedly.
Well, they can, and of course, they can shed some really valuable insight that ordinary people don't have. So it's a two-edged sword, and I think the courts are really catching on now that they simply have to pay more attention to expert witness. They can't just accept them.
Sure.
Their credentials and what they're saying. That's a very important point, and that's been a change in the last couple of decades. A change for the better, I think. But there's still some expert witness horror stories out there, and we're going to look at some.
Good, very good, very good. And as we know, there are a lot of people who are wrongly convicted. And one thing I think we had wanted to talk about tonight too is a lot of people say that Christopher Watts, going back to the Watts case, because that's unfortunately my passion right now. They say that he was wrongly convicted on a false confession with a plea deal. Does that happen often? That actual murder cases, the person of interest or whatever you want to call them, the suspect, actually pleads guilty when they're certainly not. Have you seen that happen a lot or no?
I think all you have to do is a Google search, and sadly, all you have to do is do a search of people who have been executed for crimes for murder, who were later found to be innocent.
Wow.
And many, many, many of them confessed.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And I think that I'm really looking forward to Charles tonight, Charles Wilcox, because he can give us some insight, I think. There's a man who who confessed to a really bad crime.
Horrible crime, right.
That he apparently, and his story has the ring of truth. You asked me my personal opinion. Look, I haven't looked at all the evidence, but I don't think the guy's guilty. I think that he confessed to a crime because he was bullied into that confession, and that happens so many times. And
sure,
yes, his story has the ring of truth. I think that's exactly what happened to him.
I think so too. I completely agree. Hi, Cher. How are you today?
I'm okay. Sorry I'm late.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're allowed to be late, of course. I have to start it on time because otherwise Facebook kicks it off their grid or whatever, and I have to go back and make a new broadcast. So we were just talking about people being forced into confession to a crime they didn't commit. And, Charles was one of the people that we were talking about. I firmly believe Charles was not guilty of anything, especially because the young victim later came forward and said it wasn't him, and
not only that, but since I've been talking to him and have done my videos, it has encouraged his other two nieces, who, by the way, have commented my videos. While Charles was locked up, they were actually being molested and raped while he was in prison. So
obviously it wasn't him.
Right. Not only that, but Charles and his whole side of the family was cleared of having gonorrhea. Yeah, gonorrhea, I believe it was. And the other gentleman, who is one of two people, one is still alive, and one is the victim's stepdad, and the other is the other uncle, and that uncle passed away from cancer. He had gonorrhea.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. So there's a lot to it, and how Donald also is helpful in this case is because innocent people will take a plea deal. When he was doing his STOP program, I believe it's called, where sexual offenders need to register and check in every so often.
Sure.
He had to do classes, and in those classes, they wanted him to say he did what he was charged for, and he would not do it, and he knew by disagreeing it would put him right back in prison. So
wow. Now I'm gonna try to
over saying that he did it because he didn't want to admit to something he didn't do. Like he kept saying. And also the person 5 years later arrested Charles in front of his daughter, so he was cooking her breakfast, and it was like 3 to 5 years later, and Charles should be up here soon. So he can say a lot better. But he arrested her after that time, and it happened to be when this investigator was running again and trying to get elected again. So a lot, that actually you can see it's so corrupt. Also files, stuff like that. So
oh my gosh. And I can't wait to hear his story from his own voice. I wanted to get to a couple of the comments here. Sorry, I don't have my glasses again. It's mostly stuff. Hi, Real Justice. Hi, Cindy Surfer. Find me on Instagram or Facebook. You've won a signed copy of No Inclination. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I'm just Tanya Hagen on Facebook. Or you can find my Tanya Hagen author page and message me there. Or you can find me on Instagram on Tanya_Hagen author. Or something like that. I'm pretty obvious, but just message me and so I could send you your book. And if you don't want the book, then give me another name and I'll send it to someone else for you. But congratulations, you actually won.
I just want to say hi really quick to everyone. Stephanie, JD, Real, Mia, everybody.
Bumblebee, thank you for being here and helping out. And I don't know if my other mods are here. I'm sure they are. They're amazing.
My man's at work right now, so he won't be here.
No, that's okay. I've got, we have a few now, so I think we're good. Even though you're one of my mods and, it seems like you come on every show with me. Thank goodness. You're always, I think you're my co-host. So are you like my Ed McMahon or something?
Yeah, I'm like the Joy Bear or whatever.
There you go. Right. But I appreciate having you both here. And the thing about Chris Watts though is that I don't believe that he would take a plea deal confessing. I mean, he was not under pressure. All they said was, we'll take the death penalty off the table if you take a plea. And with that, he agreed to say that he committed all the murders. But they weren't, they didn't have him in an interrogation room for 8 hours. He wasn't, 18 years old. He wasn't under any real pressure, and he knew that his family wanted him to fight.
But knowing Donald's story and some of Charles' story, and even that the doctor that may or may not be watching, Chris, if you're watching, hello. But listening to all these people's stories now, as you know, I'm more into like justice and reform and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I listen to all these stories. It does now. Nobody jump down my throat, please. I'm not saying he's innocent. It does make me question how he did get into the plea deal, Chris Watts, only because everyone's so set on there was help. There's so many factors to this. He's never been in trouble before, so he could have been scared. Right. Also, where was I gonna go with that? Yeah. So he was, and everyone was saying, if you listen to everybody, even people who didn't really care for Chris, but like knew him or maybe worked with him, but wasn't like exactly friendly, Chris changed. Chris was always known as the nice, quiet guy. So he did change right before the murder. So, I don't know. So nothing's impossible in my head. So maybe that could be why he took a plea deal, because he didn't know what the heck he was doing. He's never been in any kind of trouble with the law before. And then he's just thrown into a homicide and being offered all these deals. He was worried about the death penalty. So I don't know. There's my 2 cents that just popped in my head right now.
I mean, so it is possible, but I don't think anyone else really had the motive or the means or the opportunity that he had. And again, unless you want to go off on tangents and say, well, neighbor Nate snuck in after he went to work, the crazy stuff that we, never say. But I think that he was the only one with the opportunity.
Most definitely. I'm just saying, I could see how some people believe in his little just what I learned through Donald and Chris and Charles and all these people I talked to. I could see why they kind of think the other way.
Oh, sure. It's not completely impossible. No.
This case, there's like nothing that is impossible in anyone's head, I guess, because it's just so crazy.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Hi, Marie. Thank you so much for your kind words. Oh, Mia's here too. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. We love you. Dorothy. Oh,
hi,
yes.
True Tam. Hi.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. I don't see Tammy. Oh, there she is. Hello, Tammy.
Get on. Charles, what's going on, buddy? What's happening, brother? It's not letting you?
Oh, no. Tell him to copy the link and paste it into his browser on his phone. Technical stuff. I am the worst at technical stuff, which is why I don't know how to run videos. I actually don't even see an option to run a video. Well, I'm live. Again. Huh?
Oh, I was saying hi to Megan J. Okay, here we go.
Oh, hi, Megan.
JD, hi, Cher, answer my messenger. Okay, I will. I didn't see one.
Here, let me pull up this thing from Tammy because I haven't talked to Tammy in so long. But yet you can't blatantly see and follow the evidence that Chris Watts was completely set up in this as well. And we was screwed over by the justice system and the district attorney. I don't, again, Tammy, I don't know. I mean, again, he had the motive, he had the opportunity, he had the means. And again, if anybody, brings forward evidence that is undeniable, I don't believe it was Nicole Kessinger walking on the front porch, or on the front driveway. It was Chris. I'm sorry. But Donald, what do you think about the Watts case? Do you think this gentleman was correctly accused and convicted and all that, or do you think there might be another person out there? I know you didn't really know too much about the case.
Let's look at it from the plea deal.
Sure.
From the plea deal. People change after they've done horrific things. People can sometimes have terrible regrets, often. Now, some people don't. I mean, it's just what they are. but people change. So people are asking, why did he plea? He might have had a terrible investigation. There might have been evidence coordinated that wasn't really there. All the bad things might have happened, but he still might be guilty.
Okay.
Right? He still might be guilty. Now, why do people confess to crimes? Well, sometimes it's because they did it. Okay? Right. It's because they're having real regrets. It's because they want it to be over.
Sure.
They recognize the overwhelming evidence against them, and they're going to confess, get it over. In this case, we don't really know from an insider standpoint what really happened with the death penalty. Did someone say to him, you know what, throw yourself at the mercy of the court and the prosecutor because they're going to kill you?
I think so. I think that was what he was worried about. Maybe, but maybe not, because I think that the death penalty was actually taken off the table in Colorado just a few months after his plea deal, which makes no sense. I don't know. And again,
was it connected? I know, and we're looking at it from the outside in. There's a lot of people that are inside the system, the prosecutor, some of the police officers, and of course, the perpetrator himself. They all know the real truth from their standpoint.
Sure.
And often, the real truth, the deeper facts, are withheld from the public to protect the guilty, which might include, I don't know, well, and I'm not speaking about this case in particular, but I've seen cases where police officers or Crown prosecutors have done terrible, terrible wrongdoings. Fabricated evidence, withheld defense evidence, withheld evidence of innocence, and done all of that. And settlements were arrived at so that the police officer could be protected. And that was done with the full knowledge of the defense and the accused, because it was a good deal. Right. I have personally myself in a civil case. As a private investigator, I discovered evidence that a bank had fabricated evidence. Okay. Now, I'm not going to give the province. I'm not going to give his name, the accused. I've had lots of frauds involving banks and credit unions and everything. I'm not going to give any more detail. But I can tell you this, that when we were able to prove that a bank senior executive fabricated evidence that the accused, who had worked for the bank, fabricated evidence that the accused stole much more money than he really did. So you hear me there.
Wow.
The accused was guilty of stealing a certain amount of money. But if we've already got him on this amount of money, why don't we just add another couple of million?
Wow.
And that's what the bank did. They added
what happens to that
couple
of million then? Did they just take it themselves or absorb it or what?
I don't know. But I do know that the accused, who was probably looking at a good 5 years in jail, walked out with probation.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh my gosh.
That was a deal. Was it the best deal for the accused? Yes. Did it hide wrongdoing by some bank executive?
Sure. Yes. It did.
But these things happen.
Sorry to interrupt, Tanya. Do you have your phone ready? Because he's having trouble getting in, so I'm going to give him your number to call and put on speaker.
I've got 59%. Hoping that'll work.
That'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to do that now, and I'll be right back.
Awesome. Thank you. In the meantime, let me look at any other comments we have up here. It's funny, not to completely change the subject, but I received a comment under one of my videos that the woman was asking me, what are my motives for following the Watts case? And I don't know if she meant what's my motivation, perhaps, but I answered her that, we all want closure on these horrific murders. And, anyone who is interested in true crime, I think what we're looking for is closure and a way to move on, because a lot of these cases are, we take it to heart as though they were our own family. And I know that they weren't my own family, but when children are involved, like with JonBenet or Kaylee Anthony or any of the other children who were murdered, especially by their parents, it's heartbreaking. And, we follow the case to the very bitter end, and there is no end, because we're going to keep asking questions. We're going to keep wondering if there's another answer to everything out there. And I think that's what she meant, was what is my motivation. But if she went, what is my motive, I guess I could say, fame and fortune and a lifetime supply of Wonka chocolate bars.
Well, that's what they're expecting. Everybody is expecting that anyone that talks about the Watts name is in for a huge paycheck, right? So everyone, just like with me and Rhonda, this family's paying you, you got gold. And I'm like, I haven't got one dime.
No.
So it doesn't, people do things because they want to help. Like me, I haven't gotten one dime for anyone I've helped, but I like to help. And I like, if I can bring awareness to someone's story and just make a splash for them, I'm fine with that.
Oh, definitely. And a book about it, but I mean, that's what I do. I had to write a book because that's what I do.
Your book was one of the most respectful. I'm actually going to dare, even though you're my friend, so I'm sucking up. But it was respectful to all parties, including the murderer. It was, unlike a lot of other books out there who even got to sit down with this man and still did a shoddy job.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I tried to even give redemption a tiny bit to the killer, Charlie, in my book in the end. And I think I did that, and I wanted it to help the families heal. If I have this power and I don't try, how could I live with myself after not attempting to make something good come out of it? And so unless they give me those Wonka bars, pretty soon, I'm getting out of
Real, please. I know we have a love-hate relationship, but please be respectful when we have guests on here right now. If you want to come on my chat or other people's chat and you're going to do that, that's fine. But for me, I know you've been respectful for me most of the time. Please have respect for today's show and on Tanya's channel. Okay, Real Justin?
Oh, no, Real, you don't need a timeout. What did you do?
All right. Well, we'll just leave it at that. Real's usually pretty good with we have a love-hate relationship, but usually he's okay. So we'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
Charles will be calling you in a minute.
Awesome. And I'll put him up there and see if we can hear him on speakerphone. No, I don't think I've ever spoken to Charles. I really haven't. What is this? The guy on your live was fabulous. Oh, Mia, the guy on your live was fabulous. Great show. Thank you. I'll have to check that out, Mia. I've been behind on watching things and reading things, and because I'd had family stuff going on. I was at my mom's house for a couple of days when we had the 4th, and we all spent that with my future in-laws, which was a whole lot of fun. So I'm behind on everything, absolutely everything, especially watching my fellow YouTubers. Who is it?
Oh, Smitty Independent.
Oh, Smitty. Hi, Smitty. Let me see one more thing from Tammy here. There was no investigation for this whole case started, and it was over 136 hours. That never happened. Well, you're right. That doesn't happen. There needed to be a lot more investigation. However, once he took the plea deal, I think, not when he took the plea deal, he confessed to the murder of his wife.
Real Justice. Sorry to interrupt. He just made a comment to say to cover OJ tomorrow for OJ's birthday, and I already actually had that planned, Real. So I will start my video tomorrow for OJ on my channel. So watch out.
And I've tried so many times to post your link to your channel, either on my YouTube or actually on Facebook. Oh, there we go. I believe this is Charles. Hold on. Hello? Hi, Charles. This is Tanya Hagen. How are you? I'm doing good. Good. Do you mind if I put you on our show here? Good. Okay, hold on. Can you guys hear Charles? He's here now.
Hi, Charles. Hi, brother. Thanks for doing this.
How you doing, sister?
Aww.
Good. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for
Charles.
being here.
Good to hear your voice for the first time. Donald Best here.
Hi, Donald. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. We've had some interesting chats online, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about the updates in your case.
Yeah.
Oh, I am too. And Charles, do you want to run down your case really quickly, or would that be to be wrongly convicted of something that horrible?
It's like a total of a nightmare. What I gotta go through.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. I don't know if my phone is not loud enough, or can you guys hear him? Anyone out there? Can you guys hear Charles?
Needs to be a little louder, please, Tanya.
Yeah, I'm trying. My phone won't go up anymore. I have him on speaker.
Maybe we can put him closer to your computer speaker, because he is kind of quiet. So, you know, you guys do got to listen.
I don't know how in the heck I don't have a cord to my computer speaker.
Or no. You just like hold your phone closer to your computer speaker, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
It's actually on.
Okay, there we go. So Charles, I like to start, so how we've been like recording our conversations really quick. Would you mind giving a rundown? Let's go back then to the morning that you were arrested, and you were making breakfast for your daughter. Will you bring us back to that day and how long it was from the time when this case came up and how long it was to that morning when you were arrested in front of your 7-year-old daughter, 5-year-old daughter?
Yeah. Well, that morning, I was making my daughter breakfast. And the detective knocked on my door. That was like 4 years after the first investigation, the case.
So it took that investigator from the time that there was the charges brought up, it took him 4 years to come and knock on your door to arrest you in front of your child and wife.
Oh my gosh. Charles, I am so sorry that you had to go through that and that your child had to go through that.
And then can you tell us more? Yeah, so go on about your story and kind of get in about this investigator where he was running to be reelected, there was missing stuff. Just go ahead and talk freely how you and I talk when we're doing our conversations.
Well, he brought me down to the station. That was in the morning. And he was sitting down in his office. He turned on his recorder, and he tried to get me to say that I did it. And I kept on telling him no. Well, did he ask me if I willing to fill out a report? I told him no. He even tried to that worked. So that went on for like probably about an hour or two. Then he just threw me in the cell. That morning, when I went up to the court, and there was a report that I never said or signed.
So he was trying to do a report for you. When he did the recorded report and you kept denying it, he took that recording the tape and just kind of threw it in his desk drawer right in front of you, right? Right before he threw you into a cell? Okay.
There was a statement that he signed. He signed my name.
Wow.
Yeah, he signed your name. So what they did, they threw Charles in a cell for the night. And the next morning, there was a written confession with Charles's name signed, which Charles did not do.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Right. And they actually said to Charles, who will they believe, you or us?
But couldn't they prove it's
the written
not?
confession? I'd like to ask Charles about this. The written confession. Was it typed with his purported signature, or was it purportedly in his handwriting?
Handwriting.
In the officer's handwriting, and you purportedly signed. Is that it?
No. I told him I will never make
So Charles, tell why they claim that they signed your name, or do you want me to just say it? I know it's probably a little bit easier. Okay, so Charles woke up to the report and it was signed. It had his name signed. So when I go to ask why did that happen, it's because they now decided that Charles was not in the right state of mind to be signing his own name on documents. So they took it upon themselves. But even before that, he was signing checks and paying bills and doing all that. And they made him sign for right now. Currently, he is on the sex offender thing where he has to do reporting and stuff like that. And he had to sign for that. So he was okay and in sound mind to sign to be on the sex offender list and do reporting. But to get the confession, he wasn't in the right state of mind, and the investigator had to sign his name for him.
Okay, got it. Oh,
yep.
Wow.
Is that right, Charles?
Did I get it? Sound like much of a confession to me. I mean,
right.
You know, is that all they had? What about DNA evidence? I know it was a long time ago. Has anyone followed up on that? Is it possible?
There was no DNA. I never had the disease. My whole family, we all got infested.
And am I correct that the purported victim has clearly indicated that it was not you? Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Well, here we go. Your case is like so many where people have confessed because they were intimidated and for various reasons at the time, and they were innocent. And now it's a tremendous job to have that conviction reversed. I know you have a law firm. Can you tell us anything about what's happening, how you're going to get this reversed?
I'm still waiting to go to court. But everybody's been investigated on my case. The victim, and some of the witnesses.
I couldn't quite hear what he was saying, Cher. Do you know the situation there?
Yeah. Okay. So Charles, are you talking the other witnesses? Your two nieces that have come out?
Yes.
Oh, we lost Cher.
That's the last show that we did on your site. That's when I found out they got a hold of me and they told me
Sure. I'm sorry, Cher is gone. I think she had technical troubles and she had to leave. But I feel terrible for you and what happened to you. And nope, it says she's not. Oh, there we go. I'm adding her back in. Cher, are you there?
Yeah. Okay. Are you talking about your other two nieces that have recently come forward since you and I started doing our project together?
Yeah. Yep.
So while you were in prison, two of your nieces came forward and actually started telling their story on what happened to them. And so what I tell Charles is, even though he went through all of this, at least by telling his story, it's given these two women strength to finally come out and say their story. I know a lot of people don't agree with what we're doing, but people don't know the truth. All you do is Google someone's name, like Charles or Donald, or even the other gentleman I've been talking to, who's a world-renowned doctor, and you see what the crime is. You cannot just believe what you see when you Google someone's name. Now, Tammy, you must be with me on this one because you fight for Chris so bad. But you can't just do that and not have a conversation with somebody.
Right.
I've been in legal trouble in the past because I took the blame for my sister who took off to Mexico. Well, you couldn't get my sister in trouble and everybody wants their money. So who were they going to get money from for the incident? Me, because I was
no, I didn't know that.
You go and you look up my name for that. But that's just not what happened. Nobody was there in the court with Charles. Nobody knows all of the evidences. You can't just see someone's name in black and white and say, well, he's guilty. Because as Donald has been saying too, you can't, just because he pled and took a plea deal doesn't make the man guilty of the crime. It just doesn't.
No, not at all. No, you are correct about that. But I'm wondering, I mean, obviously Charles's case is pretty much cut and dry, and I really hope. Now, is there a great possibility, or is there a possibility they can actually reverse it?
They can. Now, Charles, you do, before.
And expunge your record.
You did have something,
Charles?
you were supposed to go to court, right, Charles? But the coronavirus kind of slowed everything down.
Wow.
So yeah, hopefully by telling his story. And,
I mean, I hope that does happen for you, Charles. I really don't know.
Yeah. So when he's all set to go back to court, and I do believe with everything that we can clear his name, especially now when in a case like this, on my Facebook, on my YouTube, I'm not just saying one family member supports him and has his back, but when I say the entire stinking family, including his friends from many years ago before the incident, they're all on my Facebook, everything. They all back Charles. And that's why it was so easy for me. Now, I've been through sexual abuse and I have children. I have daughters. So I didn't just jump on and back Charles just to back him. I believe in his story. So there's just too much there to clear him. And it shows that, you know, as Tammy would say, investigators are lazy at their job. Why not take the DNA? Why not run the DNA? Because that's money, right? That's money they don't want to spend.
Right. Oh, I know. Of course not.
Right?
Why would
nobody wants to spend the money if they don't have to and they can just lock someone up.
No, I know.
You know, there's also something that goes on, and it's very interesting, Cher, when you say that the Charles family and other people are for him. I can tell you that when I was convicted and when I was in prison, you sure find out who your friends are, who really believe in you, because so many, even some family members, not close, but family members, turn their backs because you were convicted. I was convicted.
Wow.
They turned their backs on me. Now, after I was vindicated, well, a few people can, I always supported you. Right.
After you were vindicated, right?
Sure. After I was vindicated, you supported me.
Oh my gosh.
So what I'm saying is, it's been my experience, and from other people I've spoken with who have been wrongfully convicted, that family, they do turn away. And you do find out who your friends are. And so when you say, Cher, that there's good support within Charles' family and other people, that's an indication that, to me, that a group of people have looked at the evidence, they've looked at it carefully, and for them, they believe Charles. And that's an important point.
Very
important.
Some of these, yes. So, because people don't want to side with someone who has been found guilty, someone who has supposedly done such a horrific thing, which is child molestation here. You know, when I hear that people are supportive of him, close friends and family, and they really are, and it's been a long time, that's important to me.
Sure.
You
that
know,
says a
and
lot.
the hard part is Charles is a grandfather now.
Oh.
And he's not allowed around his grandchildren. So this false case has not, like, okay, he's out of prison now, right? But he's not really fully out. He can't be around his grandchildren. He can't hold them, love them. And everyone, if you look at the comments on the videos that we started doing, and just a lot of his family and his friends all comment, I've been told lots of memories. I've been sent so many pictures. And I just, even just looking at Charles, when I saw Charles's picture and really looked in his eyes, I just saw innocence. I did.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I looked at his picture as well, and I agree. He was wrongly. You didn't see his picture? No?
I've seen so many con artists, so many manipulators.
Sure.
I've sat in rooms with people, and I know, I mean, we have the absolute best evidence possible that they did the crime. They did horrendous things. And they are such manipulators that you almost want to disbelieve your own evidence. Now, I'm not talking about Charles like that, but I'm talking about looking in someone's eyes or looking at their photo. Sorry, it doesn't pass my test. It might pass yours and a lot of people.
Sure, I think it might be a woman thing too. We always.
I am a person who has said you're under arrest for murder.
Right. True.
So, no, I don't care how nicely you smile. Thank you.
That's true. But I know that women go with their gut a lot more, and that doesn't mean a darn thing in a court of law or whether or not someone's going to be in jail. But you look at Chris Watts. Does he look like a killer? No. He doesn't talk like a killer. But then when he talks about taking his little babies and smothering them one at a time, he's talking like about how he made lunch yesterday. I think he's a sociopath, and I think that a lot of times when people are obviously when someone's a psychopath or a sociopath, they keep up this mask that is so convincing. I've known at least one other person in my life who was a psychopath or a sociopath. I don't know. I forget I think you're born as a psychopath, and your childhood, your upbringing influences you to become a sociopath. There's something like that. But I've seen so many with that mask that is so convincing. Not just people I've known, but people who, criminals. Look at them. And they're talking about their crimes, and I wouldn't know that they would be a killer if I saw them in the grocery store or whatever.
I'll give you a quick story that totally disputes and is contrary to what I just said about looking in someone's eyes.
Sure.
There is a photo of a family, husband, wife, and 13 children.
Wow.
The photo's from the 50s. And the children are all there, and most of them are boys, and they're all there. And I hold the photo up to my old class when I used to teach police science.
Right.
And I'd say, one of the children in this photo went on to be a serial child killer.
Wow.
Whoa.
Okay. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, people pick them out. Isn't that something?
You're kidding me. They pick out the correct person. Really?
That's right. When the person was merely a child. Now, maybe I'll see if I can get that photo on here one of these times.
You should. That would be wonderful.
And we'll have a little contest online for all the viewers to see who can pick them out.
Maybe someone can win a book. That would be awesome. Yeah, sure.
Donald, I have a question for you, Donald.
Sure.
And it's would you say, because I watched a documentary about one of the worst serial killers in the world, or in America, which goes along with my O.J. Simpson stuff that I'll talk about on my channel. But something that the serial killer's brother said, do you believe that you're born evil or good, like you absorb from the time you're born to maybe like 2 years old? So if you're in this family that's maybe doing a lot of law breaking, let's say like robberies or beating people, like, do you think that somebody, like a serial killer, any serial killer really, do you think that they're born like that or learn that behavior? Or is it just possible they just snap one day? You could be like in a really good family, and then when you're like 25, you just snap, you're a serial killer. Or do you think you are born like that? Isn't
this the question? And we got into last time talking about nature versus nurture. And isn't this a question? And isn't this a lot of the reason why there's so much interest in the Chris Watts case, in so many murders? Because we normal people don't really understand how people could do these horrific things. And we want to reassure ourselves that we're different, and that our friends are different, and that our family members are different. And yes, my answer is, in answer to your question, sometimes, and I think I told of the story of the young boy, not even a young man, where I wrote a report and I predicted he would murder. Did I?
Wow.
I think I told you about that.
Oh,
one?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sergeant said, "You can't write that. You can't put that in." And I did.
Sure.
3 years later, homicide's calling me.
Oh,
you put in
my.
a report. What can you tell us?
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And that was a case where even at a young age, there are certain indicators, real tremendously powerful red flags, like torturing animals and family pets. You see that?
Yeah.
You've got a real problem. And if you look back at some of the family history of some of the horrific killers that we've seen, parents seem normal, grandparents seem normal. Are they just the proverbial bad seed? Sometimes I think that might be true. They're just born wired differently than the rest of us.
Right. And I think some people are, born with antisocial personality disorder, and would be a psychopath. And if they, develop it throughout their life, they'd have the same disorder, but they're called a sociopath. And I think that there are a lot of people like this who live their lives, from 0 to 90 years old or whatever. And they don't show that behavior. They just simply wear the mask all their life, realize that they're different, and just keep quiet about it, and don't ever act on the way they truly feel. Because some people don't kill the dogs or kill, the raccoons or whatever. They just simply do not do it. They just live their life as though they were just like us, who actually we have emotions and we have empathy. So they don't necessarily have to act on it either. Am I correct?
And it's part of the fact that they didn't act on it because they were growing up, that they grew up in such a loving family who saw that they needed a little extra attention. I mean, sometimes you just don't know what's in a person's heart.
Right.
And that's what's so scary about some of these crimes. And that's why there's such high interest in crime overall, and especially the murders. I come at it a different way. I come at it because I'm interested in justice, in access to justice, in people who are wrongfully convicted, in horrific systemic problems that result in incarceration or destruction of lives. I mean, a police officer who's incompetent can go in and just destroy families and destroy lives. We've seen it time and time again. They can fail to catch bad people. So this is the reality of the world. Nothing's perfect.
No, nothing's. Let me just say real quick here. If there's arguing, my mods who are out there, I don't know if you need to. I see a little bit of rumbling. It looks like it might be arguments. I'm so sorry, guys. See if you need to put anyone on timeout. Do you see that, Cher? I just don't have my glasses on.
Bumblebee, whoever's in there, anybody, whoever it is, it doesn't matter who it is, time out them, and then if it continues after the timeout, they're gone. That was our rules for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not able to keep up with it. I don't know who's being mean or if anyone's even being mean.
Okay, so to bring up, I hate doing this, but to bring up the Watts case, then Donald, let's say that some people's theories are correct. There was another person there and they did this and Chris had help. Now, shouldn't Chris still, even though, so let's say he knew this was going to happen, this was a plan. Isn't Chris right where he belongs no matter what? Whether there was help or not, he still knew, let's say there was a plan, this cult killed this family, or Nicole was crazy mistress, she helped, there was a helper, but okay, but Chris knew of a plan and didn't stop it. Chris was there and helped with the murder of his family.
Sure.
So to me, Chris is right where he belongs, no matter what somebody tries to say and trying to fight for correct justice. He helped or was there and did not stop the murder of 4 people, of his wife and children. So some of you know who I'm talking to. Chris Watts is exactly where he belongs, whether he had help or not.
That's true. But if he was simply an accessory and they called him and said, look what we've done to your family.
Then he could have stopped it. You go to the police station and you have your family put into hiding.
Mm-hmm. You're right. No, I agree. And if he was threatened after the fact by whoever it might have been, then he could always go to the police and say, I have an elderly mom and dad and I have a sister who has children, and please put them into some sort of protection because these people who killed my immediate family are threatening to kill them. Or, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. But I firmly believe he did it all himself. And the crime was so bungled and so stupid. And I don't see anyone else who could have done it. Not even NK. I really don't. I'm sorry.
Donald, do you think if Donald, as an accomplice, let's say Chris Watts was just an accomplice. Let's say Chris Watts didn't murder anyone, but he sat back and allowed his family to be brutally murdered. Do you believe he deserves his life in 5, or he got 5 life sentences? But do you believe he's right where he belongs to allow something like that to happen, even if he had no blood on his own hands, which I don't believe. I believe he did it, but let's say he didn't, for the sake of some other people's theories. Do you think he's right where he belongs?
Well, there's a lot of speculation out there. I mean, you read the case, and some of the theories are just way out there, but some of the theories are built upon mistakes or missing information, and people speculate, and these things get their own life.
True.
In the Watts case, I have to come back to his plea deal, to his pleading guilty. It wasn't much of a deal. 5 life sentences is not much of a deal.
No.
That's not much of a deal at all.
No.
And to me, and this wasn't a naive young person. To me, that is a real indicator that he did it for me.
I agree.
Yes. So we might want to know his motivations. We might want to think, was there anyone else involved that he's now covering for because he loves them or whatever?
Whatever, right.
I mean, I've read that speculation, and it's all speculation. But I think one thing that we can accept, I have anyway, is that, yes, he did it.
I agree.
That's what I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the reason, again, that it looks so strange and we keep looking for answers is because I do believe the police department, as well as the CBI and the FBI, they fumbled it. They didn't continue to investigate once he confessed one thing. But they might have. They might have continued to investigate a bit, or they may have already cleared Nicole Kessinger. I can't believe they didn't go and look at her, people she worked with and get sworn statements that they saw her that day. I think they cleared that woman. And the reason they're being so kind to her and they don't want anyone to, to continue investigating the case is because they know for a fact that she wasn't there. She wasn't involved. That's
Sorry
it.
to interrupt really quick. Charles's sister is watching it in the chat. I just wanted to acknowledge. Hi, Tina Wilcox. She says, love you, brother. Charles is definitely innocent. Thank you for getting the story out. I am his sister. He really is a good man. He never would hurt anyone. He has a big heart. Now, this is the mother of the victim he went to prison for, okay? So,
Tina, would you like to jump in? I could post a link again.
yeah, Tina, would you like to call in, or do you want me to Facebook message you her phone number if you can't get on? That'd be great to have you on for a little bit.
Charles, are you still on the line with me?
Yes.
Oh, he's still there. Charles is still there.
I'm listening.
He's alive. There he is. So here is the link, and either Tina, you can come in, or anyone else who wants to come in and yell at me. I mean, chat with me. That would be great. We can.
My other sister, Linda is the mother.
Oh, okay. Is she here tonight?
I don't know.
Do you see her, Cher? Linda, are you here?
I do not see Linda, but I see Tina Wilcox. If you want to click that link and call in, you don't have to have your face on if you don't want, however you're comfortable. Or if you would like to call, I can give you a different phone number that I have, my daughter's phone, and put you on speaker also. It'll be a family reunion.
Oh, that'll work. Yeah.
However it works, Tina, just let me know, hon. Does anybody have any questions for Charles while we wait?
No, we're asking the people who are watching if they have any questions for you. Now, maybe not, or if you have any questions for Cher, for me, or for Donald, that would be perfect.
Donald, Charles, Tanya, anyone has any questions?
And I want people to jump in. I'm so excited that StreamYard gives me the ability to have 9 guests. I think, is it 9 or 10? I think it's 9. That is so cool. And I have never had a bunch of people jump in here, but that would be so cool if we had everybody up here. Let's see here. And I'm not reading too many of it. It's difficult for me. I try to put my glasses on, and then I start getting a headache, and you can see the glare in my glasses. And but I try to grab the bigger. I don't know what that is. Some kind of interference.
Oh, thank you, Mia. That's so sweet. Mia offering Tina and probably Charles her platform also. Very sweet of you, Mia. Thank you.
Nice, Mia. Oh, she's awesome, guys. If you want to go over there after this or whatever, she's a wonderful lady. Now, if there was other people involved, that is something that needs investigation, but it does not lift any responsibility of CW. Thank you, Max 2002. That I think that's what we're talking about. Is the fact that even if, but I mean, if he was, here's the thing, if he was totally innocent and he found out the next day that his family was annihilated and he was told to go and say that he did it or something like that, then he would be an accessory, or even an accessory after the fact. He would get jail time, but what kind of jail time? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about that, Donald?
What is the speculation, or where does that speculation come from? As far as the confession. Yeah, I mean, or the fact that there's some nefarious plot that made him confess to murdering his own family. I mean, what would it take to get you to confess to murdering your own family when you didn't do it?
No, that's what I say too. Yeah. And to me, the simplest answer is always correct. And I know that a lot of people are upset because the investigation stopped when he confessed to killing his wife. In the interview with Tammy and Agent Coder, I believe, he confessed to killing Shanann. So that was when he was arrested, and pretty much every part of the investigation stopped right then and there. And they assumed that, he was able to lead them to where they were all buried. And the little girls were in the oil tanks. They weren't buried at all, but he knew where they were, approximately how they died.
And which girl was in which tank also.
Right. So but I think that because the investigation stopped right there, Nicole Kessinger does not appear to be that much of a likable person. She's very cold. She's very abrupt. She, may not be the type of person we'd like to be friends with or whatever. And she was the mistress too, on top of all of that. So inherently, there's going to be a lot of rage against the mistress, because perhaps without her, Chris wouldn't have killed his family. So you've got that to start it off with. And then you've got, a lot of strange looking things that come up that as potential evidence that was never investigated. So people are mad. They want the investigation to continue. They think it should have continued. But now, in my opinion, again, the simplest answer is usually correct, that this man did it all himself. And
so I guess some people would then want him to have his day in court, which, you know, everybody wants that. So here's my deal. He deserves to be in prison for life. Does he deserve 5 life sentences knowing that man will never walk out of prison, even if he didn't do the murders himself? And I'm going to say, hell yeah, he does. Because there was 2 girls, a wife, and a fetus. Okay? So if not 5 life sentences, Chris Watts deserves 4 life sentences, 1 for each life he either helped murder, didn't stop from being murdered. He had a hand in that. No matter what, whether he helped or he was all alone in it, he did the crime. And so he deserves a life sentence for every single family member gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fair statement. It's a fair statement that he knows who else is involved. He knows if his mistress is involved. He knows if anyone else is involved.
Sure.
But he hasn't come forward with that. Maybe he's protecting his mistress. But probably she didn't do it. Did she know? Did he give her any insight? Could she have, if she was more on the ball, could she have stopped him or gone to the police? It's all speculation.
Sure.
Now, there's another factor that nobody talks about, or so far no one has talked about stopping the investigation, and that's this: workload. How many other murders? How many other serious crimes? Who was going on holidays? These are just reality factors. And you've got a confession. You've got enough forensic evidence. He led you to the body, told you which child was in which tank, where the bodies were. Somebody at some point said, guys, we have enough evidence. Does anyone think anyone else is involved?
Sure.
And they all looked at each other in the room and they thought, maybe someone said, I wonder if the lover's involved, but I got nothing. Okay. What else is on the table? What's for tomorrow? And that's part of it. It's not nefarious. It's just reality.
Right. No, I agree. And I don't think... I'm
curious the ratio of men. Let's say so if they knew the story, men knew the story, how they would feel. Would they feel like all the women? I have a theory. Men would maybe say, well, I don't think that she would kill a whole family with him. Okay, men think differently than women, right? But I think women have a problem, and I'm going to say 90% of women have a problem because they're married or have a significant other, and everybody's afraid of a Nicole Kessinger, right? Nobody likes a mistress, right?
No.
So just knowing he was married with children, you already have a problem with this woman. And so you want to nail her for something. So there we go already. Everyone's a judge and the jury when you didn't go to school for them. Just because you don't like the idea as a woman, like a woman, myself. If I was married, I would not like a Nicole Kessinger anywhere near my husband, right?
And people don't tend to like her anyway, even though we weren't part of it. You know, to hear her speak, she has that very deep voice. And I know that, my daughter has a deeper voice. And I know that women who have that deeper, harsher voice, they're taken differently than, creeps like me that talk like Minnie Mouse or whatever. But I know that they tend to look at them in a more negative manner. I believe there's that to start off with, and then the fact that she is the mistress, that's her label from the beginning, that's who she is, and then the fact that how could she be driving by that house on the morning of the murders, that one time that she pinged in front of or near the home or in the town would happen to be the day of the murders. Granted, several hours later, Chris was already at the oil site having done what he had to do. But she had so much against her. And I don't know if she's a nice lady. She might be a wonderful lady. I really don't know. But the public, and especially, you're right, especially women, wives, did not like her. And, again, I'm indifferent towards her. Whatever she is, but I don't think she's a killer. I really don't.
Did she drive by his home regularly, though, because she wanted him and for an emotional reason? Yeah,
right.
There's so many reasons. It could have been normal for her to drive by the home. And when you think about a mistress and what she might want and such, it's not unusual, let's say.
And I think that was the only day she actually pinged, when she was in that town. And I think that certainly she could have been there before, but she didn't make a call. She didn't interact with her phone. And so therefore she did not ping any other time except for that one time. And, that would be my luck if I were to do anything, underhanded. I would ping right there that day. And that's it.
Right. Now, CDT has a question for Donald. Donald, what do you make of them releasing a redacted discovery?
Well, whenever anyone redacts something, there's reasons for it. Most of the reasons are well established in law. Identity information. We don't want to give the personal information, bank account, social security number, things that can be used to harass or do crimes, assume other identity. We also protect children, don't we? And we also protect crime scenes and innocent witnesses sometimes. And there's debates all the time in court about this. So there are lots of good reasons for redacting information that is released to the public.
Okay. No, and of course that's true. Right.
However, whenever I see a redacted transcript or redacted information, and I see them all the time in my work, I've seen them for decades, you always try and establish the why. And is there a reason? Are they hiding something that they're not supposed to redact in law? Are they hiding it because they're covering up police incompetence? Are they hiding it because they're covering up judicial or prosecution incompetence?
Okay.
Are they hiding it because there was that one fact that was just out of touch with everything else, and maybe and I'm not talking about this specific transcript, but we've seen where prosecutors and police time and time again will redact transcripts or other records to remove evidence that shows people are innocent or establishes an alibi.
Really?
We've seen that time and time again, yes.
Why?
So why? Because a bad police officer and a bad prosecutor will have tunnel vision. They believe that their person is guilty to the point where somebody's saying, no, I saw them in another town. They used their credit card, and here's a video. I mean, we have cases that are that bad, and that evidence that the police gathered is withheld from the accused person and their defense lawyer. We've seen things that are exactly that bad. So
that is horrible.
Yes. Yeah. So the answer is there's all sorts of well-established, reasonable reasons for redactions of anything that's released to the public. But there's also the chance of an agenda to hide incompetence, wrongdoing, all sorts of things. So you have to look at it that way. And so that's it. That's how I look at redacted documents.
Now, what if if they have an ongoing investigation and they redacted the parts of the discovery that would indicate that they do have an ongoing investigation against another party and looking for another suspect? Is that possible with redacting stuff?
Quite possible. Quite possible. Okay. It's something you would normally do. And it might even be an investigation that has nothing to do with this murder case. Case in point, I have personally redacted, as a police officer, redacted information that indicated why a witness saw something. Why were they in the neighborhood to see that? Well, the reason is they were involved in another investigation, nothing to do with this, but we can't reveal that because that would blow the whole thing.
Okay.
That's another reason why that happens sometimes.
So Donald, would they keep that like that then if they planned on possibly reopening the investigation or continuing the investigation then? Would they want to do something like that?
Speculation, but yes, let's suppose there was one fact that they need to follow up on and it's going to take months.
Okay.
They might do that. Sure. But
really?
That's speculation.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, if you have the document and want to send it to me, we can talk about it, and I'll look at it in context, because you have to look at everything in context.
Sure.
What's the information around the redacted information? Who's written it? What might it be? Sometimes you can tell.
And I don't even know if in this particular discovery we can tell what's been redacted. Am I wrong? Does anybody else have an opinion about that? Because
Donald would know. Donald would know what was missing or what to look for, though.
Sure.
I believe. Right, Donald? You're that good.
It's possible, unless there's sometimes what's called a compilation put out. So if they're redacting large swaths of information and they don't want people to know that, they will just do a cut and paste and put redacted in the middle of it. Now, redacted can be a sentence, a paragraph, or 10 pages. Sometimes, depending on what it is, that's an okay thing to do. Once again, if it was 10 pages about some other investigation, had nothing to do with this one, and it's just why the witness was in this town or whatever, you can see that. Other times, again, there's an agenda.
Right.
Amy, I absolutely loved watching Shanann on YouTube way before she and her children were murdered. But this investigation is so foul smelling. I know.
Absolutely. Now, Tanya, I wanted to tell you, I was watching one of Mia's lives, and she had a gentleman on named Scott. He's on my Facebook now, and I'd love to have him on your show too.
Sure.
So he had actually some theories that I never had in my head before that actually I was thinking about, like, okay, so why did Nicole drive by the house? And we've all been wondering about, like, the refrigeration temperature. He was so worried about how cold the fridge was
so
and things like that. Now, Scott mentioned maybe things like that were certain signs to somebody that the job was done, or this and this has taken place, and like maybe there's each step. So, because he was so into why the fridge or the temperature of the fridge, and maybe that was a sign, or something about like chicken or something. There was like silly things like that, and maybe it was a sign to somebody, is what this gentleman was saying on Mia's live. And he also was saying that with being like maybe bipolar, or I'm sorry, I'm not a medical doctor, but I believe Nicole said she was bipolar, or Chris had said Nicole was bipolar, something like that. Yeah. There's so split personality. I guess she would change her voice a lot as well.
Very weird. That is weird. Did she change her voice on that horrible recording that, I miss your face or whatever? I can't even do it. My throat's sore.
Well, her voice does sound the same. How can I put this? I have heard her voice recently, and it sounds the same as when she's being interrogated. But when she's being interrogated is more low, manly, tomboy voice than some of the giggly little messages we hear to Chris, or voicemails and stuff like that. So to me, from her, yes, I've heard 3 different voices.
Weird.
You can all tell that they're hers.
I always assumed she was simply using one of those machines where you can change your voice or whatever. Kids play with those. I know that my friend Natalie's boys always had one that were annoyed the crap out of me, but I always assumed that she was using
I don't think she went that extreme. I think I think maybe that is like with certain people, like I know I baby talk to my animals for some reason. I just do. My voice changes and goes to baby talk when I'm talking to an animal all the time.
Right.
So like I'll change my voice. I don't know. Maybe Nicole thought that was like cute, flirty type of voice to have with Chris. But then when she was in interrogation, she was kind of lower tomboy voice, and I think that was her real voice, which actually matches to the voice that I heard a few weeks ago, so
right, I heard it too.
Maybe that's just her voice with Chris. Maybe she thinks it's sexy to talk like a baby or a little girl or something.
I don't know. I don't either. But it was such a change, I don't know. And my whole life I've tried to train my voice. I actually did voice training lessons when I did the TV news. I had to go through, because my voice was so much like a child, and this is when I was in my 20s. But so my goal has always been to lower my voice, and I definitely try. And you can hear when I go down a few octaves or up a few octaves. But I know that women who normally naturally have a deeper voice, I don't know that they can go higher. I mean, I guess they can. Anyone could probably do anything with their voice. Hence the voice training, I don't know. But yeah, so that's always a mystery. And I think again, she may not be a likable person, but I don't think that she had anything to do with it. I really don't. I don't, and so I don't know. Let me get through some of these.
A lot of people have been convicted and even executed for not being likable. That's a fair statement.
True.
Absolutely.
Sure. Just look at how the police do when you're pulled over for a ticket. I do get speeding tickets, but not that many because I'm just a mom. I'm just a normal housewife, and they kind of see that and they, say, okay, go on. But if if it's a man, my husband's grumpy like all the time, especially if a police officer pulls him over, they're going to give him a ticket right away. The discovery that was released was all Weld County had at the time. When everything stopped, that meant all other agencies no longer were submitting their findings. Okay. So, but what happened with those findings, though? I don't know. Where would they go? I mean, they still exist. Would they not have to be logged somewhere?
Judging by, I'm sure Charles will have a good answer, or not Charles, sorry, Donald will have a good answer for this, but judging by Charles's case and another gentleman that I'm talking to, they can get and be told anything, but these people are in a place of power. They can have everything disappear and be destroyed just as quick as they got it. We'll never know. Right. Am I right, Donald?
Sure, but most of the time it's, they got the guy?
Right.
So
it's
he
just
confessed?
Easier. Yeah.
That lead I had? I guess I should put in a report and send it to them.
Okay.
I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never arrives. So once again, laziness gets blamed for being nefarious. No, it's just lazy or incompetent. It doesn't have to be nefarious.
And what is with Colorado? There have been, again, the John Benet Ramsey case that was just so poorly handled. And something about Colorado, I don't know what you guys are doing wrong out there, but
what if they really did put something in the water in Colorado?
They might have.
I don't know.
It's also true that
the government don't know.
In the big urban centers, there are specialty squads for everything. I need someone to come and take fingerprints. You'll get a person that their whole life is taking fingerprints. Sure. You don't have that out in the boonies sometimes or in a small community. You have to be the wonderful multitasking, and nobody can be at the height of excellence and expertise in everything.
Right.
Sometimes, so that's just reality.
Right.
So that would make evidence like fingerprinting. So say they're not like used to doing it. They don't do it all the time, like you're saying, then would that actually makes it a lot easier, I'm going to guess, I think the word I'm looking for is like to contaminate the evidence, or they don't know what they're doing, so they're not doing it properly. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Exactly. Okay. Quick story. Friend of mine, police officer, Ontario Provincial Police, on an island somewhere. I'm not going to name it. And there was a suspicious death. He called the homicide squad. I don't like what I'm seeing. And they said, it's the summer. Everybody's off. What do you think you got? So he told them. They said, bring the body to the mainland and we'll have somebody have a look at it. He was the only officer on the island. So in the middle of the night, he woke up his wife, and his wife helped him load the body into the pickup truck, which they met the ferry in the morning, took it over to the corner, left it there, and then drove back. Now, that was many decades ago.
Oh.
But that's what being the only cop on an island sometimes turns into.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's, and, a lot of times they are understaffed or whatever, but like a cop alone on an island. But I think that, let's see.
Understaffed? Yeah. Waking your wife up at 3 a.m. to help load the body into the pickup truck?
Right. That's not a staff. Many discovery files are inconsistent. That's true, they are. Because a lot of discovery files depend on interpretation of each individual officer or investigator, I'm assuming, correct? There were some that, there's something about the Watts case. Does anyone remember this? What was it about? One officer or someone said that they're in the truck, in Chris's work truck, they found 2 stuffed animals and 2 blankets. Am I correct? Am I remembering that wrong? But then later they said they could not find the children's blankets or their stuffed animals. That's one of the things I had wanted to talk about at some point, how weird that is. Do you remember that, Cher, at all? What that was?
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking
they were looking for those items.
I'm thinking, was that the garbage can in the garage? I don't remember now.
The garbage can in the garage had weird stuff in it. You're right. It had a couple of dolls, and it had what looked like a blanket, and it had what was obviously a little sippy cup or something.
Is True Tam still in the chat? If she is, True Tam. I was curious because Donald had spent, 63 days, Donald, in solitary confinement?
I did.
Okay. I was wondering, good night, JD. Good to see you, hon. True Tam, was Chris Watts in solitary confinement? And if so, how long? I thought I read he was. And if you're in here, I'd love to know that.
He's still here. Again, I've not been looking much at the chat. I don't know.
Donald, I also have another question for you. What is your experience when people go to prison? How often do they all of a sudden become religious? Would you say, or estimate? Because I think it's very fake for 99% of people. I think they use it as an excuse because they get time away, or sometimes like at the church, like with cases I've been helping with, they get like better food on a Wednesday at church, or however it goes. So they sign up for it, and it's all an act, or it's to try and make them look a lot better. It's a narcissist thing. But from your experience, is that a pretty typical thing for most people to do, is all of a sudden they're religious when they go to prison?
There is no doubt that many people manipulate the system, seek to manipulate the system, and adopt a religion or rediscover a religion. Sometimes they adopt it because that's the only way to survive. So there's a lot of reasons. Okay. But I can tell you that when they shut that cell door on me and I saw feces on the wall, blood, horrific, tortured writings of the previous occupants all over the cell, God and I had a little talk, and we might not have had a talk for some time, but we talked an awful lot in that cell. And that wasn't because I was trying to get away with anything or
no.
It was just because in the toughest moments of our life, some of us turned to God or returned to God.
Right.
And yes, we had quite some talks in that cell.
Oh, I'm sure you did. And I know that during any rough patch of anyone's life, they often turn to the supernatural, whether we're talking about God or if we're talking about, tarot cards or anything, some sort of supernatural force in their life. They turn to that when they are at their lowest points. I do believe that. And whether that includes God or not, I don't know. It depends on what you believe. I certainly believe in God, but that is
so
a very
they just
common.
said Bumblebee. Sorry, every time I say Bumblebee, I want to say tuna. I'm so sorry.
No.
But Bumblebee said Chris Watts spent 96 days in solitary confinement. So that actually answers my question then all of a sudden, because now he's so religious and hangs the picture of his family that he helped murder on his wall. I'm actually confused, Donald. Why would he be allowed to have a picture of his family in his prison cell? Isn't that, I know we're different countries, but I assume it kind of goes the same. Why would
I don't know what the rules are, but suppose he confessed because he really did do it and he's really sorry and he knows he has to spend the rest of his life in there. And what else are you going to do? I don't know. That may be his way of coping with it. You've heard me speak about the influence of evil as a force, and like mental illness or like rage. I mean, people have different reasons and react differently to various circumstances. And all I know is when it's all said and done, and they close that door behind me into that cell. Yeah, I knew I wasn't guilty. I knew I'd been set up. I knew the evidence was fabricated. I didn't yet know I was going to be vindicated, but I knew I wasn't darn well going to plead guilty to something I didn't do.
Right.
So that was me. Each person in their own circumstances. So I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what. Does he have anybody who's working with him religiously right now? Does he have a pastor or something?
I think there's a woman actually who, sorry to interrupt, but she has taken it upon on herself to befriend Chris and to go and visit him, especially for the religious part of it. I believe she and her husband have become good friends with him, and they do worship together. So he does have that support on almost a daily basis, from what I understand. So yeah.
Skeptical me, I always worry. I always wonder about the reasons for people who work with prisoners who have done such horrific crimes.
Right.
And yet I have a good friend, a pastor he's 80 years old now. He's been a pastor for 60 years. He was a cop too. And he goes right into the prisons and he works with the most horrific people who've done the horrific crimes.
Wow.
But he doesn't do that for any bad reason that I know of.
Sure. Right. No. And I think this woman is genuine and she's sincere and she wants to help this, killer redeem himself however he can. But I think that with people like Christopher Watts, again, I think he knows that he is different, that he doesn't have the empathy and he doesn't have a real value system to assign good versus evil. They're both the same to him. And I think that with religion, he's sort of guaranteeing himself that he's on the side of good. And that's just what I get the sense from him, that this is what he's trying to do. Fill himself up with the ultimate good because he is aware that there's no difference to him between good and evil. So if he's got all this good stuff in him, like the Bible, like God, then at least he knows that he's tipping the correct direction. I don't know. I really don't know. But I know that people who do not have real empathy and they don't have real feelings towards other people or towards really anything in life, that they sometimes they are very aware of the fact that they're different and that they don't really know the difference between good and evil. Fundamentally they do, but in practice it doesn't feel different to them to do one thing or the other. And I think that's where Chris is right now. But that I could be wrong. Just my assessment, basically. I don't know. What do you think, Cher? Have I lost Cher?
No. Sorry, JD message. I'm trying to read it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Or what do you think, Donald?
What was the question again, Your Honor?
I believe that people like Chris Watts, people who do have antisocial personality disorder, don't feel the difference between good and evil, in a sense that they fundamentally know the difference, but they don't they don't feel the difference. Do you know what I mean? Like if I were to go and help an old lady across the street, or if I were to go and run over a bunny rabbit in the street, I wouldn't feel any different. So
there are people who
what is that? That's more than empathy. You're not missing just empathy. You're missing, I mean, I don't know what that, it's obviously a brain imbalance to not be able to have feelings, right? So.
Right. And does that make them bad people? I think that if you are a sociopath and you go through your whole life, you live a normal life, you pretend to fall in love, get married, whatever, or not, or just simply live your life isolated, but you don't harm anyone, are you a bad person? Because you could.
That's hard to say. Mm-hmm. There's a case that has stuck with me for several years that I flip-flop in my own head about, but this gentleman committed murder. I think it was more than one woman.
Okay.
We'll go with he murdered one person at least. However, when he finally got caught for it, they were sentencing a totally different man because he now had Alzheimer's.
Oh boy.
And so how do you sentence somebody like that when he doesn't even know? And it was said he had some mental disabilities his whole entire life. Right. So to put this man into prison, me personally, yeah, he did the murders and there was proof enough for that. But for some reason in my mind, I didn't feel it was right that now all these years later that he's finally getting in trouble because of DNA. It was actually DNA that broke the case. And now he has no recollection. He doesn't know what he did 25 years ago.
Right.
So I don't know. I believe, and maybe even Chris Watts deserves, I think a lot of people overuse the prison system when some of them people, Donald, would you say more people than not are some kind of mentally unstable who are in prison currently? I would say like around the world. Wouldn't you say most of them would not have a good mental evaluation?
I know what I saw in solitary confinement, and I've spoken about this quite extensively. The people in solitary confinement, not just in Canada, because I've spoken with other experts and people who've been in jail throughout the United States and Britain too. A large percentage of the people that end up in solitary confinement are definitely mentally ill. Now, to what extent, whatever. A lot of that, for instance, in Ontario, back in the 70s, we decided that we would take group homes where people who just were so mentally unstable or mentally ill, they couldn't live on their own. We decided to shut them down and put them out in the community. That's what and we said we were doing it for the right ways, but we saved a ton of money. All we did is we took those mentally ill people, some of whom are terribly dangerous to themselves and others, and we transferred the problem to the police and the justice system. And now there are many, many people in prison who really should be, they're mentally ill. They'll never be any good. They should be in a system that's designed to hold them, to protect them, and to protect society.
So like a mental institution rather than a prison.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, and that's what my belief is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true in solitary confinement. I think it's true a lot throughout the people who are incarcerated right now. Maybe there's some other police officers that can back me up on this, but so many of the calls that you go to are people who are mentally ill to some extent.
Sure. And I think that let me pop up this question here, not to change the subject all the time, but Megan J. Donald Best. The original discovery was not redacted. We're going back to the Watts case here specifically. Children, neighbors, witnesses, etc., all had their personal information made public. What are your thoughts on all that? Because that's
true. Right now in Canada, all right, assuming that's true, right now in Canada, we have laws to prohibit that.
Okay.
We have right in the criminal code that there are laws protecting what's called identity information. Identity information can be date of birth, address, anything that can be used to locate or harm a person. There's also rules about privacy and what can be released, what can't. Nothing's perfect, but in my case, and cases I've been associated with it, I have seen extensive information on hundreds of people released to the public, sometimes for the most nefarious means, because they wanted to intimidate people. They wanted to intimidate me. They released the names of my children to the public at a time when members of organized crime were seeking to harm my family and me. And they released that to the public. A judge did that, a corrupt judge, Justice J. Brian Shaughnessy of the Superior Court of Ontario. And I can say it because it's all the proof is there, as you know, on my website, all the exhibits, everything. And that's what that judge and the lawyers who were involved, Lawrence Silver, Gerald Ranking, Sebastian Kwidzinski, they did the same thing along with that corrupt Ontario Provincial Police officer, Detective Sergeant James Van Allen.
Wow.
And Jim Van Allen went into official police records. He was a police officer working who was illegally taking money, bribes from the lawyers to go into essentially to do an illegal investigation of me because it was a civil case. So they just hired a corrupt cop.
Sure.
And this is what he did. And that information, including my driver's license number, was in public
You
record.
guys, Donald was doxxed.
No.
Okay.
Big time. Yeah, no kidding. Charles, are you there? I think I'm going to head towards wrapping this tonight, kids. I got to pop something on for dinner, unfortunately. But, thank you. I'm so sorry what you've been through, Donald. And Charles, if you're still with me, I'm so sorry.
Hopefully next time I can get a video on.
That would be awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Everybody, ahead, Cher, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, but I was just going to say goodbye to Charles, but I do have to get the kiddos fed as well. Donald, thanks again. Definitely coming back on. So much more to talk about.
Great seeing you.
Behave in the chat, you guys. Tam, you guys, always good to see you.
I have not kept track of anything. Uh-oh.
We lost Donald.
Oh, no, Donald's gone.
All right, I'll hop in the chat while I cook. Thanks for having me on again,
Thank
Tanya.
you, Cher. Thank you, Charles.
Soon.
We'll talk soon. Love you bunches. But anyway, guys, tomorrow night, I don't know where Donald is. We must have lost him somehow. Tomorrow, I am going to have on a gentleman who is one of my publishing brothers. His name is Matt Converse. And he writes books that I think will be fascinating to anybody in this community. Donald, there you are. We thought we lost you for good. Cher had to bow out. Thank you for being here. Again, anytime. I really appreciate you. And keep commenting, everyone. Again, Cindy Surfer, you're the winner of my book from last week, and we'll do it all over again this week. Make a comment either in the chat or below the video. Donald, I'd love to have you back, maybe even next week if you're free.
We'll see, but I really enjoyed myself, and your viewers are great. They're really engaged, really knowledgeable, and it's obvious that, they really like your work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Some people like my stuff, some people don't, but there's room for everyone, and I like everybody, so I don't care what I've done wrong. But anyway, guys, thank you again. I think I'm going to pop on some hamburgers. My daughter's actually making some black bean burgers, so I have to make real meat burgers to go along with them. But thanks again. You guys have a good night, and I will be here tomorrow night with Matt Converse, an excellent author, and I think you guys will really want to talk to him. Thank you again, Don. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.